So let's write our first job. From our challenge, we're supposed to fetch patient data from a REST API. Since we're using the HTTP adapter, you can look at the docs for HTTP adapter using CLI or using our website, our documentation website. So from CLI, you can write down OpenFn docs and then the name of the adapter that you want to use, and it will show you the latest version documentation for that adapter. You can also specify the function that you want to know the documentation for. So for example, I want to know the documentation for get, so it will show me the signature of that function and give me an example of that function. You can also use our documentation website to learn more about the functions. So go to docs.openfn.org, then select adapters, then select the adapter that you want to look at the functions. So in my case, I want to see the functions that are available for HTTP. If you select it there, it will show you all the functions that are available for that adapter. And also it will show you the function that we're exporting from the common adapter. These functions are very useful for data transformation operations. In my task, I'll be using the JSON placeholder API to treat that as my REST API for getting patient records. And the user's endpoint, that's the one that I'll need to call to be able to fetch the patient's record. So I'll need to create an operation that fetch the patient by using the get operation. So I'll write get and then the endpoint for where I need to fetch the patient's record. But as you have noticed that we haven't really set up the credentials for the JSON placeholder URL. So each adapter provides you with a sample configuration schema for the system that you are trying to connect to. So for example, for HTTP, this is a sample configuration schema that you need to set up as part of your credential, the appropriate authentication for this system that we're trying to connect to. So I'll copy that and go to my temp directory. I've created emrcreds.json. So I'll paste the configuration schema and update the base URL to JSON placeholder. So my base URL will be JSON placeholder, and since this URL it's a Faker API, it does not really require username and password, so I can simply just remove those. Alright, now that we have set up the credentials for get patient record and we have written our operation for getting the patient's record, let's actually run our workflow. So open your terminal and write OpenFn, then path to the workflow.json file. In my case, it's patient's report workflow.json. The next thing that you need to specify is path to the output file. In my case, I want all the output for this workflow execution to be stored in the temp directory. So I'll write down minus o patient's report temp directory, and I want all the output to be in temp directory under the file output.json, and then press enter. Basically, that's what you need to run this workflow. So we have an error saying that file not found for get patient data.js. So looks like we have a typo for get patient. This is get patient's data.js. So run this again to say unexpected output. Basically, when you see an error like this, that means you have to double check your credentials if you have set up like a proper JSON input. In my case, I've created a credential called sfcred and it's empty. So since I have not set it up yet, I can just put an empty object and try to run again my workflow. So if I run my workflow now, automatically it will install all the adapters that I specified in my workflow execution plan. And once it's done installing, it will now start running the jobs. As you can see, since we only have one job, so it did fetch the patients from the endpoint users using the JSON placeholder API, and it's done now fetching those patients record, and it has written the final output in a temp directory. So if I click to read this output, I'll see the list of all the users data, which we are treating this as patients record for our testing purpose. And then I'll see the full response under the response key, and I'll see the results of each individual instead of data. That's pretty much it on fetching the patient records. You might want to log so that to know if you're actually getting the response, and to do that you can add another operation here that read the data from state and log the result that you're getting. So to do that, use the fn block, and this function is a building block for all the data transformations. So it takes state and returns state, and right here you can log what you have received from the previous step. So let's log state.data and see what we're getting. And this time, instead of running the entire workflow, I'll just want to run only the first step. So I'll use the only option, and I'll say the ID of the step that I want to run. In this case, I want to run get patients data. Let's run this workflow. So since it already installed the package before, right now it will be a bit further. So it's saying error, only step not found. So get patient data is not found. I think yeah, it's called get patient, sorry. So I'll fix that. The ID that I need for this step to work is called get patients, not get patients data. As you can see in my log here, I have fetch the scrub. So I've done the fetch of the patient records, and then the second step here, it's logging the data that we have gotten from the previous operation. Now, in most cases, you do not want to log the entire response that you are getting from the source system that you're connecting to, but you might still have use case where you still want to log those information. So based on the sensitivity of the data that you want to log, sometimes you can remove the sensitive data from your console log, so that you only see what is not sensitive. And to do that, you have the ability to write a normal JavaScript function that can actually do that for you. So for example, in this case, I can write a function here that, let's call it self-log, and what this function takes is the data, and what we want to return is a console log. Actually, we don't need to return. Let's say we just console.log save data. And what is the save data? So in this case, we can say save data. Actually, okay, let's go save data is equal to data dot map say data, and then we only want to return. So let's say we don't want the address to be displayed. So let's say the sensitive information is the phone number, the address, and the email. So we can simply remove those. So here, let's say we don't want the email, we don't want the phone, we don't want the address, and then everything else that is remain is safe data, and then we can return safe data. Okay, so basically what I've done here is I've plucked out address, email, and phone, and everything else I consider that is a safe data. So instead of logging your entire data that you're finding here, you can simply just use that function safe log, and we can pass in state.data. Let's try to run this function one more time. It does not install actually the package for the second time because the adapter already installed. So as you can see, instead of logging everything, now it only logs the name, username, website, and the company. So let's say, for example, the name also it's a sensitive data. I can also scrap it from here so that it only logs this. Now let's see what this does. As you can see, now we are only logging the ID, username, website, and company. Everything else, it's been ignored. We can also add a log saying removing email, phone, address, and name from logs. Let's see what do they say. So it will start by saying we are removing email, phone, address, and name from logs. And there you have it. So these are adapter functions, but you also can create normal functions that can help you with the data transformation, because the function that we provide from the adapters does a lot for you, does help a lot with data transformation, but there are still cases that you still need to do something. You still need to do some sort of transformation, and you totally have the ability to do that using a normal JavaScript function. So you can still write your normal JavaScript function for any of the data transformation process. I hope that makes sense.